welcome to Knitting Books etc. My name is Cristina and today I'm here to finish my alphabet tag. So I think it's S to Z tag. It's a tag that was created, today I have notes. It's a tag that was created by Jim from Reading Books and Stuff. And I'm going to, before I start, again, after I finished my previous part of this alphabet tag, I noticed that I had forgotten to say something. When I talked about the letter O and I referred Odysseus, I forgot to say, of course I have just finished reading the Odyssey. I'm sorry. But that's not the reason. One of the reasons I was going to talk about him, or I talked about him, was that there's a legend that says that the city where I live in, and I have lived all my life, which is Lisboa, which is, in English they say Lisbon, but the name is Lisboa. It's the capital of Portugal. And the name comes from Ulysses, which is the Latin word for Odysseus. And the tradition says that Zeus asked Odysseus to found a city, and he threw a lightning bolt, and the place where the lightning bolt fell down, that was the place where Odysseus had to found a city, and he founded this city, Lisboa. That's why it has this name, because it comes from Ulysses, okay, or Odysseus. So this was the story I wanted to tell you about this hero, and I forgot. So now I'm going to start with the S to Z prompt, and the first one is S. What is your favorite SF, so science fiction novel? And I thought about this. I may have read a science fiction novel, but I really don't remember, which is strange because I like science fiction films. So very recently I bought a book because I love classics. So I thought that perhaps some classic science fiction would be good for me to start. And I heard about some books by Isaac Asimov. They are called the Foundation Trilogy, I think. And then I thought about the other one, Dune, which I have heard a lot about it, but I never read it. And so I bought it. And here I have. The day before yesterday, this book arrived. And I am going to read it, but I can only read it in April because I have a very full TBR for March already. But I must say that I read the first pages, and it was very difficult for me to stop reading. So I know that I read 12 pages and now I have to put it away and don't look at it because it's a very big temptation to try to read this. So I will be reading Dune soon. T is for, and Jim asks us to. He mentions tropes, tags, etc. He said, create your own tag, your own prompt. And first I thought about tea, the drink, but I talked about that a lot in the first video. So then I thought about the word tag, and I must say that I find tags, YouTube or Booktube tags, very funny, but there are so many. And I always think when I'm listening to people talk, Even yesterday or the day before yesterday, I don't remember, I was watching Hannah from Hannah's books talking, and I always think that I'm not clever enough to answer those tags. People seem to think a lot about what they are going to say, and I think that I am very scattered brain. And I never know what I'm going to say. Even if I write some notes, then I forget to look at them or something like that. So, but I found them very I find them very interesting. I love to see all the tags that appear in Booktube. U is for unicorn, and then he asks us for your favorite mythical animal. And I don't have. First, I remember this one, and I'm going to show you, and you will find which one it is. And it's not that I like the animal per se, but I do like the poem that comes in this book, and you must know which book it is. This is the Jabberwocky, and the book is Through the Looking Glass, one of the the second book of Alice in Wonderland. And I always found this poem amazing. I like play, to play with words. I like the sounds. It's the first time I saw this poem. It was amazing because I think it makes sense. And how can it make sense when you don't understand the word? It reminded me of the book A Clockwork Orange by Anthony Burgess, which I remember so well when I read it for the first time, and the first page I could hardly understand, and I thought, how can I read a book where I don't understand the words? But after the second page I was fluent in that language, and I always find it fascinating when things like this happen. Maybe that's one of the reasons why I also love the Middle Earth mythology and things that my books were falling and I got a scare. Okay. The things that Tolkien created, the languages that he created, I always find that fascinating. So I remembered Jabberwocky. I also, afterwards, I remembered a book, or I actually read 2 books by an author. She's called, let me see, I brought this to check. Naomi Novik. And she wrote some books. The first one is, it's a series of books where the first one is His Majesty's Dragon. So it's they are historical novels, but they have magic in it, or not magic, fantasy, because they are historical novels during the Napoleonic Wars, and there are dragons in it. So one of the forces, you have the navy, you have the army, and then you have dragons. So kind of an air force of the time. And then there is a special relationship between the dragons and the pilots of the dragons. I liked them a lot. I read the 2 first, and I liked them. So Naomi Novik. The first one is His Majesty's Dragon. Violet book, but I felt a bit silly because I've been looking at all my books. The great majority of books I have are penguins, and they have a black spine, not very elucidating. So I have been looking at the covers, but the covers are normally paintings or things like that, so they don't help me a lot. Then of course I have other books, and I have many technical books about grammar and the English language, but I didn't look at those. I wanted to look at the books I read for pleasure, my um, either novels or non-fiction, but that I read for pleasure, and I didn't find them. So I decided to bring this. My channel is called Knitting Books, etc., because I'm a knitter, and the last big thing I knitted was this. So there's a lot of violet in here. This is a ginormous shawl, and I can not going to waste your time now describing it, but there's plenty of violet here. And that was my answer to this prompt. When I was preparing to start filming, I noticed that a recent book I have that arrived and I didn't read, look, that was, I looked at the spine. I don't know, perhaps when I was searching for a violet book, it was at night, and this color here might have, I don't know, look like another color, because I didn't see this. And I remember, I think that I remember trying to look at the book and said, oh, it's blue, but no, this spine is, and this is violet. So this is a recent acquisition of mine, and it's a biography. I like biographies, autobiographies, diaries, and also letters. So I decided to, many years ago, I saw a documentary about Napoleon and Wellington, and I loved that documentary. Of course, I'm Team Wellington, as you might guess, since I live here in Portugal, but I decided to buy this biography and read it. I think I'm going to read it this summer. So, and it's a violet book. I cannot say that it's my favorite because I haven't read it. Next. Why? Oh, and this is why you decided to start a Booktube channel, or if you haven't, why didn't you start one? And I have had a Portuguese channel about knitting. I now have more than 100 episodes, so it's been, I don't know how many years. But I also wanted to talk about knitting in English as well to larger audience. So I started tentatively to talk about my knitting in English, but my channel is called Knitting Books, etc. Why? Because I already knew that I would like to talk about books as well, because I love to talk about books and I love to listen to the other people talking about books. I am enjoying very much to connect with other booktubers and have these conversations with them. It has been very, very a pleasure. That's what I wanted to say, especially now where I spend so much time alone. Not that I complain, because I normally say that I am one of the perhaps the people that are least affected by this fact of being confined, because I do like to spend time alone a lot. But I do also like to talk about books and to listen to other people talk about books. I also like to read about books, and I love to read books that talk about other books. So that's why. Also, of course, my channel is also about knitting, so I talk a little bit about knitting as well. And I called it Knitting Books, etc., because sometimes there are other subjects that come to mine that I'd like to discuss, and that's the etc. For example, this year I actually had a very big etc. because at the beginning of my summer holidays I had an accident and I broke half of myself. So, but that's okay. I'm recovering. But it was a big etc. that affected my life. But that's why. X, genocide. What's your favorite book about genocide? I think that genocide means the killing of foreigners. I guess that xeno, that's what it means. I think it's a Greek prefix, I would say. I know because I know xenophobia, which is the dislike or hate of foreigners. So I don't think I have ever read a book about the killing of foreigners. I know that there are people that don't like foreigners. There are people who even want to build walls to prevent foreigners to come in their countries, but I have no idea. I don't think I read anything with that topic. Last time I talked about a book I read, but that was genocide, which is different. They were peoples from the same country that were fighting against each other, but they were from the same country. They were not foreigners. Why? Why is for YouTube and to mention other channels. And I watch channels about knitting. I subscribe to several channels. I also watch channels about food. There's one which comes to my mind, which is Downshiftology. She makes very beautiful dishes and they are gluten-free. I cannot eat gluten, so that's one of the reasons why I watch her. There's also other stuff. Sometimes when I need to do something that I'm not quite sure how to do it, I always Google and I always check YouTube to see if there's an answer for my question, and normally there is. So I like to learn, even cleaning hacks. I am a little bit obsessed with cleaning and having orderly and clean house, and so I like to watch YouTube channels about that as well. And then Z, a book about zero, about nothing. And for some time, I had some difficulty trying to recall the title of the book, and then it was obvious. I read a book when I was a kid that it was, not a kid, I was much younger, that was where the enemy was the nothing, and that was the never-ending story. Unendliche Geschichte, I think in German, that's the original name. I don't have the book here with me. I don't know what happened to the book. It was not mine, it was my mother's. I remember that there was a book in her house where I lived. Of course, it was my home. And I remember that the book was written in pink and green, and it had 26 chapters. Each chapter started with one letter, A, B, C, D, so in that order, the letters of the alphabet. And the bad guy was the nothing that was spreading. So in English it's the never-ending story. I remember that there was a film too. I don't remember if I saw the film. I remember watching the video clip. There was a singer, Limal, which sang the Never Ending Story song, but I don't know if I really watched the film, the complete story of but I read the book and I remembered at the time I enjoyed it a lot. So that was a book where nothing was important. And as I reached the end of this tag, maybe I will be doing some other tags. I would like to tag, the other day I tagged 2 people and then there were other 2 people that I had tagged first time but I forgot to say it. So I'm going to say it. There are 2 channels I like a lot. One is Too Fond of Books, Janelle. She's the person who is has, I don't know, but I think that she knows every mystery book there is on the face of the earth. She knows everything about mysteries. So I found her channel in last December when it was the Dagger and Cloak read along, and so now she's also doing lots of great videos to prepare for the March Mystery Madness. And she's Janelle, she's from Canada, and her channel is Too Fond of Books. I also enjoy Tristan from Tristan and the Classics, where he talks about classics and reading classics, and I also enjoyed his channel a lot. So these are the 2 people I'm going to tag, and I hope to be back soon talking about the books I've finished now in February and the almost infinite TBR for March that I have. Until then, see you.